Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Media TV. I am your host, Evan from Media TV, and today I want to talk about a comment that I received on one of my videos. We're going to watch that video said first, and then we're going to look at the comment. Let's get it right into it, shall we?
Were Germans, what was Germany run by Nazis in the 1930s and 40s? Yes. Were all Germans Nazis? No. Were a lot of them Nazis? Yes. Same rules apply with the Somerset Isles. Are all uh, is the Somerset Isles in the fourth era during the time of Skyrim run by the Thalmor, aka Elf Nazis? Yes. Are all high elves elf Nazis? No. Are a lot of them elf Nazis? Yes. So, same rules apply. Were Germans.
Now let's look at the comments in question, shall we? Hell no. Thalmor aren't Nazis. If you consider this, Dark Elves had slaves and are far more racist. Tiber Septim literally is warlord, which invaded. Oh my god. Which invaded entirety of Tamriel. So the idea that they are Nazis because they don't want fucking lords to worship a god, damn Breton warlord who became a god, you should think about it. So let's unpack this topic, shall we? We're going to take it chunk by chunk, not necessarily in order. So the first thing that he said, I want to lay out some ground rules for this. We will take historical context into account as it pertains to the understanding of the current geopolitical nature of Tamriel in the fourth era, the 200th year, the year that Skyrim the video game occurs. So, the first line where he says, if you consider the Dark Elves had slaves and are far more racist, I am not going to argue that elves are racist. I'm not going to argue that Nords are racist. Every single ethnic racial group within the confines of Tamriel and abroad is unbelievably xenophobic by nature. The nature you need to understand when it comes to Tamriel is that everybody has been invaded and conquered by somebody else, and everybody has invaded and been conquered by someone else. There are no innocents. There are no good guys. There are no bad guys. Because there's no one super bad guy because they are all bad guys. It is who is the oppressed in this moment, who is the oppressed the next moment. This is a living world where what matters is what is happening now and in recent modern memorable history where people are alive that remember it, not what happened 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Because the only people that even the people that were eliminated by say the Needs, for example, in the aftermath of the Akutan invasion of Hammerfell, even they were oppressors in their own right. So ultimately, there are no zero stain good guys. There are no zero stain bad guys. Period. Now, here's the thing you need to remember about Dark Elves and all elves in general. Elves are very much xenophobic to all other races, especially non-elven ones. That's the first. The second thing you need to notice is that while the Dark Elves were the last province to outlaw slavery, they also did it 200 years before the events of Skyrim. In the Dark Elves, the Morrowind is very much a hollow form of its former self. It is not a powerhouse on the world stage. It is It is a very much limping province and a limping people who have refugee issues because of Red Mountain exploding in the aftermath of the tribunal dying off, and tons of awful things happening in the aftermath of the Argonian invasion that destroyed the 1,000-year seat of of Morrowind's power and culture, Mournhold. All of everything that happened in the last 200 years has put the Dark Elves on the back foot. They are no longer the like the powerful cultural juggernauts that they were on the world stage. This is the reason why they have been, and due to their geographical isolation from things like the Imperial Aldmeri War, and the fact that they were out of the Empire in the aftermath of the Oblivion Crisis, they had basically nothing to do outside, like, and have been very isolationist this whole time, very much trying to recuperate. Also, the biggest slaver houses were in Morrowind were eliminated. The House Indorel and House Drest, as well as House Flalu. These three great houses have effectively been eliminated. These were the ones that were, minus House Telvanni, that were the most pro-slavery. House Telvanni is not is still around to a degree. It's very limping. It hasn't been completely wiped off the map like the Indorel and House Dress are. Because you still have people like Nelop who's around in the Elder Scrolls 3, but the way I kind of square that war circle with Braden Chadri, the merchant that was poured to Telvanni, that you deal with in Riften, and with the fact that Nelop fucking exists, that tells me that uh the Telvanni exist, like the Telvanni lords exist still, but like the actual apparatus doesn't. That is kind of my general working theory when it comes to the existence of the Telvanni and the warfare. So, you have basically three or four, like two or three great houses that are left functionally at this point, because House Dress Foundation was the slaves. House Enderol was both slaves and being the most pious tribunal house. Their pillars were gone, and the Telvanni lords didn't really need House Telvanni in the first place. So the apparatus that kept the Dark Elves, that of slavery, has been effectively gone for 200 years. And again, the Dunmer are now on the back foot geopolitically. Now, I have said all that to help understand why I'm about to say this. It doesn't fucking matter. We are 200 years removed from Dark Elven slavery. Slavery has, as far as I'm aware, basically been abolished on the continent all across the board. And functionally, this is a non-set. Like, this is a non like this is a non-issue. Um, So, full clarity for the last 6 minutes of me rambling about that. Yeah, Dark Elves are racist. Everybody's racist. Everybody has done colonization and oppression. Nobody's a good person in Tamriel, because it is a continent with its own living history of tens of thousands of years. Yeah. So let's get into the next bit. Tiber Septim is literally a warlord which invaded the entirety of Tamriel. Yes. And this is where I don't disagree with you on that. And they don't want fucking Nords to worship a damn Breton warlord who became a god. So here is where I want to get into the fundamental difference as it pertains to this comment. This man says Tiber Septim is a warlord who invaded the entirety of Tamriel. This is 100% true. This is 100% true, and I don't disagree. Here is where there's a difference. So the idea that they are Nazis because they don't want fucking Nords to worship a god, here is the issue, right? when I say they're Nazis, Nazis precipitated a genocide of the Jewish people as well as the Romani, plenty of other dissidents in minor ethnic groups that were not Bavarian. Here's what I need you to understand. It didn't just start with them sending people to camps. It started by intimidations, broken glass, personal knocks. It started with them outlawing, certain cultural practices. It started with them making people wear the Star of David on all of their clothing so they could be identified. It doesn't go straight to the camps. It starts with cultural erasure. It starts with religious erasure. It starts with preventing people from practicing like cultural identities, and that is ultimately what the Thalmor are doing with this. They do not want if they don't want to worship Talos as part of the nine divines, or want to just worship the eight divines instead, they are well inclined to do that and prioritize that culturally. The problem is they're trying to force other peoples to uh, change their cultural signifiers for to be in line with what they. Not only that, and this is where you probably don't know, but I do because I'm a fucking lore nerd. That you need to understand that the reason why I have no problem calling the Thalmor elf Nazis is simply for the fact that the crux of 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 right wing high elven ultimary ideology literally goes back to not a feeling but to their origin story. You see, the high elves, which are the basis of elvish life on Tamriel, originated with the Ald Marys. That is ALD, not ALT. The Aldmer, the Ald Marys were basically the citizens of Etheria, immortal, eternal beings that lived on the ethereal plane. When the god Lorkhan, the god of man and the god of change, um, basically convinced slash tricked, let's be honest, the Aedra to create Nirn, a new plane of existence, effectively a planet, that that was populated by a peoples that the god that was under the purview of no god. What the power that took the Aedra to do this caused the Aldmeri, because of that power that sustains them in their immortality, to make them effective in their minds, effectively not unlike gods, to lose that immortality, to lose that perpetuality, and they were put on to Nirn, Tamriel, as a part of that. They lost in their minds the um they lost their immortality because of Lorkhan uh and the rest of the gods creating Nirn. Remember, they also use this power to create the humans, a much by the Altmary's mind, weaker, more finite, less important race. So this was an action that would ostensibly lead to the ideology that if we can, it is because of men and it is because of mankind that our race is no longer God's. And you know what? You could argue that. Here is the fundamental problem with that, though, and this has been a through line among extremist Altmer this entire time. I want to remind you, this was tens of like thousands, tens of thousands of years ago that this event occurred. You have had multiple empires have risen and fallen and risen and fallen and risen and fallen, and you have entire elves today who who don't even believe that that was the origin story. You have entire people who have created entire cultures and lives based around this. And what would happen, and what you ultimately have, is a ethno-nationalist, functionally ethno-nationalist ideology of that comes down to this, and I'll explain it here. The underlying point of high elven right wing ideology is we lost our godhood, so we for the creation of Nern. Therefore, Nern must be uncreated for us to attain godhood again. This is the underpinning principle of Elven, specifically high Elven supremacy within the Elder Scrolls universe. This is the root of why this perceived that we are gods and you are not thing is the reason why they think that they are not only better than everyone in mankind, but also why they think they're better than their Bosmer, Dunmer, Osmer counterparts. It is because those people used to be high elf, but then they changed through all manner of different ways. They all have different creation stories. I'm not getting into all in this video. And the Ultimer are theoretically closer to, like, in view, form, and genetics to what the Aldmeri were. So they think that they are better than the other elves as well. This is why they think that Talos is so offensive to them. This Talos, the reason why they want to outlaw Talos worship and wipe him from the history books is because the concept that a man could rise to godhood when generations of right-wing Aldmeri scholars have like have been in ideas and thoughts like their race couldn't ascend to godhood is insulting to them because they view mankind in all forms as lesser, as animals, as beneath them, worthy only in the place that the Aleids had them back before Alicia's rebellion. Fundamentally, the reason why the Thalmor are invading the rest of Tamriel with the goal of taking it over and throwing as many bodies at the problem as they want to is simply for the fact that they can convince the public to hate like all the other races, saying that we are the supreme race, we deserve to control them, and then they can get the masses of people to back them up with their invasions and their oppression and their cultural erasure of the religion of an ethnic group. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, they are like the Nazis. Like, don't just have a we are better than these people and we deserve to rule over them. They also want to exterminate these people. Now, they might not necessarily be putting people in camps. Many camps make like or get the slaves to do it. Right? The Nazis did that shit too. That was their idea of automation. Um, but I talked about like getting the masses on board with their ideology and everything. Because fundamentally, the ultimate thing that the Thalmor want to do is they want to destroy Nern. They want to not just destroy it, but unmake the material reality plane, so they can ascend back to and think they can get their godhood back. This is the case in the fourth era. This is the desire of the Thalmor in the fourth era. This is what the Bedlam court did during the second era. This is and they are trying to get the tower conduits that one of each that sits in every single province in Tamriel. The linchpin of realities that keep Nern together. They want to control and destroy these pillars' connections to it. So I've talked about the pillars. Within Nern, there are multiple different pillars of reality that are basically linchpins for connecting like the material plane to material. So it does not unmake itself and become part of Ethereus. These are giant pillars that probably you're aware of. The Red Mountain is one, the volcano in Marwyn. The Throat of the World in Skyrim, the giant fuck off mountain in the center, but that's another one. The Adamantine Tower in High Rock, that's another. The White Gold Tower in Cyrodiil, that's the other. Uh, a giant fuck off history in Blackmark, that's another one. The um, Cypress Tower in High Isle, that's the other. You know, like there are all of these linchpins and stuff up for reality are all over this. And it's why the Old Merit Dominion wants to conquer Tamriel. And it's why they basically invaded and declared war on Titus Mead II on his coronation day, starting the Great War. I need you to understand. I am not just against the Aldmeri Dominion because they are just wanting to participate in cultural erasure of Nordic religion, but it is because the very underlying core of the Thalmor's ideology is they want to destroy every other race, everything that every other race has made, everything that like even the ones they disagree with of their race have made, solely so they can make this foolish idea come to reality that they are in fact gods and everything else must be destroyed so they can have the fruits of that labor. The Thalmor are evil. They are a death cult. They are not like, a lot of the Christian nationalists here in my country who view climate change not as and things going on in the world as not a case of like things that human beings could fix, but the beginning of the end times, and that it's God's will that the world's going to shit and be in it and trying to do anything to stop it is upfront. The people that run the Aldmeri Dominion are evil, and they are about the same, if not exact. This is why I call them autopsies. It is because they are trying to commit ethnic cleansing of humans. They are trying to impose their will on others who do not want it extrajudiciously. And ultimately, the ultimate end goal of their ideology is that the Aldmeri Dominion, specifically the Thalmor that lead them, want to destroy the world on the hope that it would allow them, the worthy ones, to ascend back to the ethereal plane and regain the godhood that they supposedly deserve. At the end of the day, the level of incorrect in this person's statement is absurd. Yes, the Nords have committed atrocities. They genocided the Snow Elves. But you could say that the Snow Elves deserve it because they genocided the Nords first. But then you could also say that, like, they had a right to do it because their land was being invaded by Nords. But you could also say the Nords had the right to do it because their old homeland was becoming uninhabitable and they were like lines like that can go back all the way for every single conflict within the confines of this universe. The one fundamental thing that determines whether or not in a setting like this where everybody has been shit to everybody else is fundamentally what is going on in the Balkans. You can go back and forth and back and forth, thousands of years of history on who wronged who and why should happen. And eventually, just like how just how the British government said, no, we're not going to investigate who killed this colonel who terrorized and murdered a shit ton of Irish people back during the Troubles. At a certain point, you just have to accept shit happened. We got to move forward. And in a setting like this, where that is the modus operandi for when you have to look at this analytically, the Thalmor are elf Nazis. The current leadership of the Thalmor, the current modus operandi, their current ideology is akin to fascistic ethno-nationalism. Period. You can't talk about the Dark Elves in response to this because why? The Dark Elves have been geopolitically irrelevant for 200 fucking years. They are geographically irrelevant for this conflict. They are culturally and financially irrelevant. They have been doing almost their own thing, weathering natural disasters, foreign invasions, and cultural degeneration for 200 fucking years. They have lost 2 to 3 out of their 2 to 3 out of their 5 great houses, and the power that comes with that. They're irrelevant. The fundamental truth is that, and here's the other thing. This is a world where gods do exist. This is a world where fundamentally the gods do interact with people. Yes, Tiber Septim, Talos, was a Breton warlord because he was ignored underneath a Breton warlord, and through his entire history became through his entire the whole thing became the emperor. Tiber Septim wasn't just elevated to godhood; he achieved Chen, an actual thing that can be achieved by mortals to start the road to ascending to godhood. He actually did ascend to godhood. You want to know how I know he actually ascended to godhood? Because one of the last quests that you do in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is you need to help one character get basically a potion ready to do a ritual. And one of the regions in that ritual is the armor. Is you need the blood of a god, and the only way we could find that was going to Sanctor, the resting place of Tiber Septim, or in theory his resting place. Getting his armor and then getting the blood stains out of his armor to use in the region. And you know what? That ritual works because it was a valid thing, proving that Tiber Septim did become a god. It's not up for discussion. Now, you could argue, should we be be worshiping him and all the stuff he did? From the other corporate point of view, no, but they're not arguing that. They don't think he's a god. They don't believe he was ever a god. That is, they are, denying reality. This isn't like the United States where, or like the real world really, where, we can question whether or not God exists or not, and there's no actual good evidence at all for it existing in the first place. In this universe, gods are real, and it's proven that Tiber Septim was this. Now, do they know that? Do they know this? No. Do they know that this quest existed and these events happened? No. These are one of those events that are like shrouded in are lost to the times of history. But it doesn't matter. We know that happened. We know that that's true. So it is a piece of extra analysis in our understanding that the Thalmor and their ideology is not based in any kind of reality. It is based off of their feelings. It is based off of the fact that they don't like mankind they don't like being, because they think less of us. They don't want mankind to exist. The only reason that the Aldmeri Dominion hasn't been genociding and killing, men in other races in mass, is because all of these other races are national entities with power to resist that. They want to have control. Once they get to the occupation stage of the entirety of Tamriel, then they'll start killing people in mass and doing it. But that is a big reason why I support the Imperials, both in the Skyrim Civil War and in Bust. Are the Imperials a colonialist, imperialist thing? Absolutely. And they are also have been an an ethnically diverse state. Are they a totalitarian authoritarian state? Yes. And it is the lesser of two evils principle. Is living under the empire like feel good? No. Does living under the empire mean that you will have more life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness compared to living under the third Aldmeri Dominion run by the Thalmor? Exactly. Fundamentally, this commenter does not here's the thing. I don't expect most people to understand why the Thalmor are bad. But if a layman plays Skyrim, I don't expect them to agree with me off the rip with the Imperials until I explain all this. I expect them to kind of go Stormcloaks off rip. But nobody, whether they support the Imperials or the Stormcloak, are going to look at this and think the Thalmor are not Nazis and they are justified. That is insane to me. So fundamentally, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this will. I hope to Mr. The Boss. Wow. I hope when you see this, you understand why you are so demonstrably wrong with this. And also, I hope that you take this as a learning experience of just like, maybe maybe I don't know everything off rip. And you know what? I give you credit on that. Not everybody's a fucking Lorner like me, and I don't expect everybody. But you're wrong, and I'm hoping that I hope that I've changed your opinion by doing so. Thank you for watching.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to talk to me outside of this video, outside of live streams, or just join the community and be a part of it, you can do so at HIMediaTV/Discord. Discord links there. We'd love to have you. And given the financial situation of the economy right now, I know this is a tall ask, but if you have the scratch to spare, please consider donating and becoming a supporter at HIMedia.gg/tip. All of our perks are serviced through our Discord channel, including early access videos, exclusive videos, and more. Your generosity is a blessing, and $1 a month is a boon to my mental health. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate you, and have a great day.